Friends, coming back with the somatosensory system part 3. In the previous section or lecture, I covered the properties of the sensory receptors. Just to recap those properties, it is the specificity of the receptors and the specific representation in the cerebral cortex, the specific areas and their location, and the generation of generator potential or production of the receptor potential, then to the action potential. Then I discussed about the sensory units and two-point discrimination or tactile acuity. I briefly introduced about the sensory coding, taking an object and the various parameters around that object. Now today we will consider the entire sensory coding as a whole and the various aspects concerned with the sensory coding. As I mentioned in the introduction, in the last class I covered the points 1 to 4, which I have tick marked here. That is the specificity, the law of specific nerve energy and specific nerve projection. It is covered. The specific representation in the cortex is covered. The initiation of impulse from the generator potential or receptor potential to the action potential is covered. Now about the sensory units and the recruitment of units and recognition of two separate units as a tactile acuity, that is covered. Now what is left with, I briefly introduced the sensory coding. We will continue with this in this series. This is a process of coding all attributes and characters of the sensory modality as an electrical signal that could be deciphered or understood by the brain. The brain should take up this electrical signal and then convert that electrical signal into a reality. Say for example, if I am thinking about an object which is a smoother, so then I will come back to it that in my brain should tell that this particular object even after imagination should show that it is smooth. So that is what we cover, and this would be by the action potential only, that is specifically related with the action potential temporospatial pattern, because action potential is a all or none response, and this all or none response, only thing it can make is the frequency of discharges, the pattern of discharges, the bunching of the discharges or spikings, so on so forth, that we will consider in the next part. This is an important chapter, the coding of the sensory information. We know very sketchy information about the sensory coding. It is mostly psychosensory. We try to assume certain information and we try to have experimental evidences. Still now we are not able to. Say for example, you go to a matching house for selecting some colored clothings. You will see in the same color the number of hues, unimaginably large number, but you can still differentiate. So how that is achieved, we don't know. Similarly, you have the information which is able to be perceived as one. Now let us examine the coding is a complex and involves the following points. We have to think because these are difficult things in the nervous system to come back to a conclusion. Basically, they are achieved by temporospatial frequency modulation. How this is coded, what is there in the sensory nerve after generator potential is Xn potential. This Xn potential is the burst of activity. This burst of activity is coming one after another or coming in bunches, or it coming in bunches and bunches and bunches, so on, like spindles, so on. So that means they have a time, or in relation to time or in relation to the space we have the frequency modulation. In frequency modulation, that is one part. The pattern of discharge of Xn potentials, they increase with the increasing strength. That means very fast rates with increased intensity. So that is one point. So if I keep on increasing the intensity of the stimulus, so it increases the number of discharges. Now the number of burst or the population of Xn potential, they are also many neurons are responding within the group. Sometimes the many neurons respond with the number of these Xn potential. So not only one neuron. Further, if I keep stimulating certain things, there is what is called adaptation. So that means that determines how long a nerve could be stimulated during a time. And for sensory coding, there is always a labeled line, that is a specific line, the specific line of information carrying a specific set of sensory modality to the specific areas in the brain. These potential discharges reach the sensory cortex where they are decoded with the help of a somatosensory association area and the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the center for memory. Then the meaning to the sensory modality is given in terms of the following. 1. The modality. 2. The attributes of the sensation. 3. The location of the sensation. 4. The intensity of the sensation. 5th, the duration of the sensation. Look back here, the modality of sensation. Coding of the sensation and the discharge pattern is unique for a given sensation as below. Receptor location also modifies it. For example, movement of the hair cells provide a leverage and amplify the signal of the nerve endings. That is where during certain type of inflammation, cut or a wound, anything around that receptor, you will have the altered sensation, what is called hyperalgesia or allodynia. Allodynia is a sensation which normally was not felt. Normally the pain was not felt by a touch, but after cut you may get that allodynic sensation. The coding is related with the intensity of stimulation, already I mentioned. Sometimes the myelin sheath is absent in certain demyelinating disorders. What happens? You will find our myelin synthesis is hampered. You will find what are called paresthesia, tingling, numbness, altered sensation. So these are some of the modalities we think about. In the bottom, I have taken it from Genong. So you see the Meissner corpuscle that will be when it is produced, you can see the stimulus there. Once the stimulus is maintained and then sustained for that period and then dropped back, it will sense the texture of the whatever object. The Merkel disc, you can just see it is continuously bursting even with the stimulus. This is not adapting easily. This one is adapting. Immediately after the burst it is silent. Here it is continuous. The next one is Pacinian corpuscle. You can see it will record the vibration. This vibration sense, you can see the burst, sudden burst and then pause. Then Ruffini, that is a stretch of the skin that would produce the. These are some of the differences of the modalities. So we have the texture, indentation, vibration, and a structure. These are the things. These are the receptors which are, that is, Meissner's, Merkel, Pacinian, and Ruffini endings. They will sense that. The attributes. Touch of a friend. Touch of a mother. A touch of an enemy or a stranger, we can all detect what is associated with that touch. So how it could be achieved? That is one of the things, because we know it's a good touch, bad touch, or ugly touch. That means there are some subtle aspects the receptors detect and process in the brain, give meaning to these sensations. These psychosomatic aspects are synthesized in the brain with the help of a sensory association area along with the previous memory. My dear friend may have a question here that touch of a mother. I will tell that the mother is not there in front of you and you have closed your eyes and your mother, you know that your mother is not coming and she even comes and touches. Still you say that it is a mother's touch. I swear. Identification of commonly used objects. Even in dark, I can open up, I can check out whatever the coin I have and I can give that coin either a nickel, penny, or whatever the reason or the location we stay around. Or I can identify a pen, pencil, key, or these things. Even in the key bunch of 10, I can identify this is the key I want to open this door. So this type of information is known as a stereognosis, recognizing the object. This involves number of sensory units, that means touch receptors, pressure receptors, and other receptors. And processing is also required at the cerebral area, that is somatosensory association area, hippocampal area, recall of memory, and all those things, and then we can bring about and synthesize the object. This is again one of the synthetic sensations. Similarly, all the senses have a different attributes. Say for example, if it is a cut, a sharp cut, a blunt cut, a crushing, whatever, we can discriminate precisely the location. Sensory unit is one of them which tells about the location. This receptive field, that means whatever the area presented by the sensory nerve is the receptive field. That receptive field, the distribution of sensory receptors. To help these receptive field, we have got another important phenomena, what is called a lateral inhibition. This lateral inhibition inhibits the surround, produce a contrast, so that a central theme projects or focuses further. So that if a pain is going, the surrounding is obstructed, the pain from a particular point goes on, or a touch from a particular point goes on and tell that this is where it is located. So lateral inhibition becomes one of the important aspects for the tactile localization or the location of a particular thing, and it increases the acuity. Now I am coming to a particular situation in which a person has undergone a knee joint removal or amputation because of an accident. After some days, he started feeling a pain in the toe. Because in the brain there are areas which represent the toe, still they are there and they get irritated by some other phenomena, and this type of a thing is known as a phantom limb. Phantom limb is the limb is not present there, but still you have the pain in the toe or the heel or whatever the structure which is missing. So that is how the location, the aspects of the location. The intensity. Here I will focus upon the Weber-Fechner law. The relation of intensity of the stimulus and response is not linear. It has a log function. Here in this table I have given some arbitrary numbers. Suppose for a modality of sensation, say for example the touch sensation, when I placed on the receptor with 1 unit whatever the pressure or touch, I get 5 action potentials. When I did 2 units, no, it did not double because I have increased. But it doubled when I have increased the units to 10. So that the intensity is logarithmically increasing. That means then it has produced nearly double action potentials. That is the response. And when I have increased to 100 units, we have doubling from 10 to 20. So this relation is an approximation just to give you an idea, and accurate intensity relationship or intensity response relationship is given by these two scientists, the Weber and Fechner, and this is known as a Weber-Fechner law. It states that the subjective sensation is proportional to the logarithm of the stimulus intensity. I repeat, the subjective sensation is proportional to the logarithm of the stimulus intensity. However, later on experiments have proved that there are certain other aspects involved in the Weber-Fechner law, and now that relation is given in the formula below. The R is the response, is equal to Ks raised to A, Ks power A. K and A are constants, and S is the stimulus intensity. This is a Weber-Fechner law. You may try to remember this. Now coming back to what happens if the duration of the stimulus goes on and on forever. Now here we have 3 conditions. Condition A, where the stimulus on the top, we have the stimulus that is continuously there. The number of discharges are also there. So that means it's non-adapting. No adaptation. Generator potential is as big as before. In the second condition, these are called a tonic tonic receptors, the same stimulus pattern as above. You see that the initial increase followed by a decrease, sparseness, but not absent. So that means there is a decline. These are slow adapting receptors. In C, you can see there is an initial burst of activity followed by a fall, and sometimes in some of the receptors it becomes silent. So that is a basic. So now, according to that, it is explained on the left side, non-adaptive receptors, tonic receptors, and basic receptors. Each has a function and each has a purpose. As I have mentioned, the blood pressure receptors are non-adaptive, and the touch receptors, especially from the Pacinian and the Meissner corpuscles, are rapidly adaptive. You can see the graph here. You can have in this graph taken from Guyton. You see that square dotted, the black dotted line, that is about a Pacinian corpuscle. Immediately it's coming back. Then next comes the hair receptor. You can just see that is within 1 second it is coming back. The muscle spindle, which maintains the muscle tone or muscle tone, and that is still maintaining even after 8 seconds. If you are looking at the joint capsule receptors, it is still higher. It's not decaying as fast. So these are telling about a rapidly adapting, slowly adapting, non-adapting receptors. Now, why there is adaptation? Why the discharges decrease? One, in case of encapsulated nerve endings, we can think about a viscoelastic element and which may adapt or which may change the pressure gradient on the core. But that may not be perfectly giving the answer to us. The accommodation of the receptor, that means the sodium channels opening up to generate the generator potential and action potential, that decrease. So that means the sodium channels, they get an equilibrium. The mechanosensitive channels, the ENAC, they get in equilibrium and they will decrease their, and they shut down. So that means the depolarization decreases. I have already mentioned about baroreceptors that maintain blood pressure, and pain receptors are non-adaptive. Summary: somatosensory pathway in general consists of receptors, 3 sets of nerve fibers. First order neuron relays in brainstem or spinal cord. The second order neuron crosses and relays into the opposite thalamus. From the third order neuron relay to the specific area is in the sensory cortex, the parietal cortex. Receptors can be classified according to the location, stimulus, energy, and adaptation property. And we have mentioned about the generator potential and the action potentials coming from the receptor potentials. The coding of the action potentials we have described. Sensory cortex decodes the electrical signal to provide all the attributes of the sensation as perception. Synthetic sensations such as stereognosis and tactile discrimination are mentioned. We have mentioned about the generator potential, adaptation, intensity discrimination, and Weber-Pesner law. Hope this will clear away the sensory system. These are the reference books I have kept in my mind. There may be little more because of my whatever the previous knowledge gained from other books I have just taken up, but these are the base books on which I have made this lecture. Next lecture we will continue with the posterior column or a medial lemniscal sensation. Thank you.